if someone on this committee then starts talking about somebody's bleach blonde, bad built butch body, that would not be engaging in personalities, correct?
What now?
Welcome to the BJ Show. Let's rock and roll. Rock and roll. Come on, everybody. Let's lose control. Brad and John, they're the ones to follow. Yeah, ready for the ride. It's the BJ Show. BJ Show.
It is the BJ Show. It's the morning after the debate. Yes, we do this show live Monday through Friday from 7 to 8 o'clock Central Daylight Standard Time, whatever it is. And we then put it up on our podcast, on our YouTube channel as well, too. So, yes, this show was recorded on Wednesday, September 11th, 9/11. God. John is along. His name is John Combest, JOHNCOMBEST. Put a .com on it. You've got his website. Good morning, John.
Good morning, Brad. How are you this morning?
If any better, I'd have to pass a law against it. You know, one of those kind of things. Okay, John is not in the studio this morning, so hopefully things will go well this morning. Last time we did this, it worked out quite nicely. John, every single day of his life for the past 22 years, pretty soon coming up in 23 years in October, puts together a list of all the important stuff that he feels is going on in the state of Missouri as far as governmental things, you know, all sorts of crazy stuff. And we start to show off, even though he has 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, sometimes even 60 items on his website every day. We essentially distill it down to the top three. We bring in this guy.
I'm Casey Kasem.
He says things like,
we're on our way to the number one.
And things like,
and here they are.
And things like,
now on with the countdown.
And then we do this.
In third place,
as predicted on yesterday's show, Brad, the Missouri Supreme Court ordered Amendment 3, the abortion initiative petition, the abortion initiative petition ballot measure back on the November ballot. Yesterday was the deadline because absentee ballots are beginning to be printed. So Amendment 3, which would essentially legalize abortion in the state of Missouri, as some people debate, right up to the moment of birth, will now appear on the November ballot. So, Brad, you and I discussed this yesterday. I think we both predicted that it would indeed appear on the November ballot.
Well, yeah, and I think that, once again, nothing against Jay Ashcroft, but what he's trying to do, I think, is just stupid. Once again, let the people decide. They met the requirements for the number of signatures and things like that. You know what's going to happen, John. You know as well as I do, the amendment's going to pass. I mean,
some people think that. Yeah, you're right. A lot of people think that, Brad.
Well, I think it's going to be the same thing that happened in Kansas. I know they did it in Ohio. I'm pretty sure they did the same thing.
Yeah, Kansas and Ohio for sure.
Kansas and Ohio. So we're just going to have to wait and see. But, once again, your thing is when the Supreme Court, and this is the Missouri Supreme Court, when they get an issue like this, it's got to be in the back of their heads of them saying to themselves, okay, we know what the law is, but we have to essentially look at the big picture here. And even though we may make a decision which may skirt the law, we can't be on the bad side of history. I mean, you agree with that or what?
I think that, I'm sure there's some, as a non-lawyer, I'm sure there's some legal, I'm sure there's a whole lot of legal positioning behind what they said. But yeah, I mean, in the broader picture, there was no way they're going to take an initiative petition, I have trouble saying that today, Brad. There's no way they're going to take initiative petition measure like this off the ballot after Jay Ashcroft has already certified it. Now, the interesting thing, and if people read one piece about this, I would suggest they take a look at Jason Rosenbaum's piece that I have up today from St. Louis Public Radio. And as Rosenbaum points out, the official opinion, I guess, so to speak, the complete opinion hasn't been issued yet. So as I understand it, the Supreme Court indicated that a majority ruled that it should go back on the ballot. And Justice Mary Rhodes Russell said that the full opinion would be forthcoming. So in the coming days, we'll be able to see the full rationale behind putting it back on the ballot.
Well, the reason they didn't give the full opinion right up front, it may not be done, but they had to beat the deadline. Wasn't the deadline yesterday at like 5 o'clock? They had the ballots printed. Isn't that what the deal was?
You're absolutely correct. Yeah. So it was certainly a rushed opinion there, Brad.
Right. And once again, I say Jay Ashcroft is the guy who had to certify, the petitions. Why didn't he bring up this thing earlier, other than like on Monday morning? You know what I mean? I mean, like.
Yeah, I do know. And, you and I talked about it yesterday. I think that even if Jay Ashcroft had won the Republican primary for governor, I still think he would have done this. And I think that Jay's in the position where he's going to do whatever he can. And let's not forget, when we think about candidates that were endorsed by Missouri Right to Life, I believe Jay got the Missouri Right to Life endorsement.
Well, not going to touch that. Something I can say, but I'm not going to do it. We're going to move on to number 2.
Up a notch to number 2.
Another step in the ongoing saga of regulating hemp products. Yesterday, Attorney General Andrew Bailey announced that he would be creating a new unit in the Attorney General's office that is, for all intents and purposes, collecting, he called it a repository of information for investigations that the agencies are doing to take a look into these unregulated hemp products. And the battle continues of how to more clearly define what is allowable, what is not. I would point people to a piece from the Missouri Independent by Rebecca Rivas, did a piece where she talks to the Missouri Hemp Trade Association. And what I think is unique about it, Brad, is that the Hemp Trade Association points out that, yes, there are some bad actors in the industry who are dressing up some of their own products as looking like lifesavers or looking like name brand products, but that those type of manufacturers and those type of products don't reflect the vast majority of hemp products. So I think that's a unique angle. And of course, Governor Parson, for his part, has been pointing to these, what essentially look exactly like name brand candies, and pointing out cases in which children are overdosing, children are getting too much of this intoxicant in their system. So it's almost as though Governor Parson is pointing to some of the kind of low-hanging fruit. I think we would all agree that some of these deceptive marketing techniques and deceptive products should be removed from shelves. But the Hemp Trade Association's argument seems to be, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. So,
and the Hemp Trade Organization, who essentially is represented by Mr. TWMP, isn't that his name?
Yeah, Epen is I believe he's a member of the board. He's certainly a lobbyist for the hemp industry, yes.
Going back to that, I think we don't have many guests on this show, but that got the most feedback, at least from people that contacted me about his appearance on the show.
Did you say we should have him back, or what did you say, Brad?
No, I said, of all the people, we don't have a lot of guests on the show, but my personal feedback from people that contacted me, he received the most amount of comments of anybody we've ever had on the show before.
And do you want to characterize what those comments were, Brett?
No. Because I don't want to get myself in trouble. I know he's a friend of yours. I'm just going to let it go.
Yeah, I mean, Epen certainly has some strong opinions, and he's a unique character. I mean, he's a character. I would put him up there with a Mark McCluskey type character, Brad.
Yeah, but we're going to move on. Okay, last but not least.
The number 1.
Who shot JR? It's one of those great mysteries in American television. And we finally got a resolution in that, after the next season began. Another dilemma, another mystery was solved yesterday on Scott Faughn's This Week in Missouri Politics midweek update. Brad, have you caught up on any of the DEI detective? Do you remember we've talked about this a few times on the show?
The DEI detective. Yeah, I know what you're talking about, but refresh my memory.
Yeah, so Scott Faughn got a tip that the head of a Missouri department had attended a DEI conference and might even be a DEI champion. Now, you say, John, who cares about this? Well, Missouri legislators and Governor Parson and the University of Missouri have all come out and said, Missouri is no place for DEI. We are not going to discriminate on someone based just on their skin color or their demographics. Well, as it turns out, on yesterday's midweek update, Scott revealed who the director was that actually attended a DEI conference. And Brad, here's the sticky thing. I'm just going to cut to the chase. it appears as though this director might have attended this event on the dime of a state vendor. Now, I'm not an expert on state law and what employees can and cannot do and what directors can and cannot do, but I'm pretty sure that you can't attend something or have something given to you by a state vendor. Anyway, the name of the director is Chlora Lindley-Myers, and she heads up the Missouri Department of Insurance. And I think they have a more full name. I think it's Department of Insurance and something else. Anyway, colloquially known as the Department of Insurance. And Scott laid out on the show yesterday all the photographic evidence he has. In fact, different associations that had the National Association of Insurance Commissioners and others had captured Missouri's own director there. I believe she even won an award, Brad, at the National Association of Insurance Commissioners. So the details will continue to come out about this. Scott is going to take this. He said he wanted to wait until he had complete and accurate exhibits and evidence, and he's going to take it to the governor and see what the governor has to say about Missouri state government actually supporting DEI. What do you think of that, Brad?
Well, here's my question for you, John, and I'm going to ask you this, and I know you don't have an answer, and I don't think anybody's going to have an answer. Who is the person they hired to essentially be the DEI person that was included in the marijuana law? You know what I mean? Who?
I think you should forego feedback you get from older, crankier listeners and have Ethan Thampy back on, and maybe he can answer that question.
Is it him? No.
I don't believe Ethan is the guy that's in charge of DEI. In fact, he was the first person I know that pointed out in 2022 that actually went through the law and read the fact that that Amendment 3 would create, or that amendment would create a DEI director. And in fact, I know Peter Kinder, former lieutenant governor, was also very vocal about the fact that this would create a DEI position. So I don't know but that's a great question, Brad. I don't know who the marijuana DEI person is. We clearly have somebody at the Department of Insurance who's cheerleading DEI, who's a fan of DEI.
Well,
and by the way, before I forget, I should give a shout out to Scott Faughn, because Scott very graciously and very kindly mentioned my book yesterday. Scott had a wonderful event on Monday night. It was a roast of Dr. John Patterson. It raised money for a Mid-Missouri Rape Crisis Center. Scott does these roasts at least once a year. And every winner of the Under 30 Awards is going to get a copy of my book, Stalking, Harassment, Internet Trolling. And Scott was very gracious, mentioned me and the book and my website. So I just want to thank Scott for that.
And he didn't mention me?
Well, Brad, the last time that I mentioned you on Scott's midweek update, I got 2 minor facts wrong. And the next morning you chastised me, and I made a vow, which I've kept, that I won't mention you on any show ever again because I might get a detail wrong. And you will remember, did you go back and listen to Scott gave you a shout out in the first 30 seconds of a show the other day?
No, I didn't. Wait, I forgot about that. What did he say?
Oh, I don't know.
You're not going to tell me. Okay, going back to this thing again. Okay, once again, it's in the amendment for the marijuana thing, the thing that legalized, recreational use of marijuana. It created a position of director of DEI for the state of Missouri, correct?
As I understand it, that's correct.
Okay, why don't we know who that is?
That's a great question, Brad.
I mean, was that going to be appointed? And see, this is the thing. You and I have talked about this. This is the problem with the constitutional amendments, is that once they're in the Constitution, you can't do anything about it. If it's legislation, if it's legislation, and they realize there's the law of unintended consequences, where they intended action A, but reaction B, C, D came about, they can go back in the session, when they do, and say, you know what, we need to amend this law. And that's what the whole thing about, isn't it? When you read the thing, Missouri revised statute, isn't that what it all is?
That's exactly right.
Because they revise them all the time. Okay, so the crazy thing about this is that when I first heard this, I go, why in the world would they put that in? Of all the crazy things. But anyway, so you're not going to tell me what Scott Faughn said about me?
I just discovered, I looked it up, and there's a website that has the specific timestamp, and it looks like if you click on it, it'll take you right to the statement, Brad.
Okay, another thing regarding Scott Faughn. You sent me this yesterday. You texted me this thing, and I didn't understand what the message was. You say this is one of the producers for Scott?
Yeah, Kelton Turner. It's very simple. It's not hard to follow, Scott. Kelton listens to our show, so shout out to Kelton Turner,
right?
Who does a wonderful job with Scott's stuff. And the clip that you played of, do you remember a day ago?
Yeah, I do remember.
And so you played a clip, and Kelton said that he recognized it. He said that it was the censored version. So maybe Charlton Heston actually uses some dirty words.
No.
In the original version of the movie, Brad.
Okay, I understand what you're saying. Okay, I thought he was saying that it got censored off of YouTube or something like that.
No, absolutely not.
Okay. That's why it didn't make any sense to me. Because he said about censored. Well, I don't know. Did he say something? Did Charlton Heston say something nasty when he?
I don't remember. You know what? I might. Well, we'll hear from Kelton. I'll text him after we're done today and see what the original quote of it is.
Oh, let me see if I can find it real quick. Is it? Let me see if I can find that. Is it?
It was best known, I think, for being mimicked and copied by the great Jim Varney of the Ernest movies when he did Ernest. Hey, Ernest, it's my family album, and he recreated some lines from that movie, which was and I believe it was an Oscar-winning performance by Jim Varney.
Let me see if this is it. Hold on a minute.
Some of these protesters hold up signs
No, it's not
proclaiming.
it. How about this one?
But what happened last week when they took a shot at my hero and they tried to kill
that was Hulk at the Republican.
Yeah, I can't hear
Yard
it.
signs suck, don't vote for them. It's the person that you need. Can't
Oh, I like
trust
that. Yard signs suck. I don't know where it's at. It's in here somewhere.
It's okay. We'll find it.
We'll find it. Maybe it's this one.
Yard signs suck.
No, it's not that one. How about this one?
John can proofread, dude, I don't ever want John proofreading my stuff. John Combest can catch a proofreading error at 70 yards like a sniper. That dude, he knows, and don't question him. If you write something and John Combest corrects it, don't argue. He's right. You're wrong. If John corrects you, thank him publicly.
Speaking of Scott Faughn, right? Okay.
I can't hear any of them, but I'll hear them when you're going to post these to YouTube right away.
That's right.
And I'll be able to list them to them after the show.
I'm sorry, you don't hear it on this feed. Okay, I screwed up. Okay, we have to take a break. Are you ready to switch over?
I
as well
am.
too?
I'm going to dial right back in.
Okay, let me get this set up for the break. I will hit this right here, and we will be back.
Thanks for checking out the Brad and John Show podcast. This segment of the show is brought to you by John Combest's book, Stalking, Harassment, Internet Trolling, A Guide to Recovering and Rebuilding After Online Attacks. It's a great reference if you've ever been the unfortunate target of a social media attack. It's available on Amazon. Just search John Combest. That's Combest, John Combest, and the book will show up in your search results. Now it's time for another segment of the Brad and John Show. Can you handle it?